Evening, everyone's here.
Everyone's here? Okay, great. All righty. We are going to call to order the Neshaminy Public School Board meeting of Tuesday, April 28th. Mrs. Burns, can you take the roll, please?
That's one person I didn't check to see if she was here. Oh, Lord. Is Ms. Burns there? Oh, no.
I'm not seeing her. No.
She is not on.
Do you want me to take the roll?
You're on.
Mrs. Bowman,
Here, but I'm usually second.
Ms. Hollenbach,
I'm on.
Marty Sullivan,
Present.
Irene Boyle,
Here.
Paul Cirillo,
Here.
Adam Kovitz,
Present.
Dave Marrington,
Here.
Steve Peritano,
Present.
Mr. Allen.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All righty. I just want to make note that since the board secretary's not on the meeting, that administration, somebody has to take some minutes for us.
I'll do that.
Okay. May we all stand for a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. All righty. We have a lot of people on tonight, and if those that participate in Zoom realize that bandwidth sometimes is a problem. So I would ask the public if you could just turn off your video to preserve some bandwidth. If you are going to participate in public comment, you can certainly turn your video back on when we have the public comment periods. But we would appreciate if you could turn the video off to save the bandwidth so we can have a good meeting and everybody can enjoy it. So thank you. We have a special action item tonight. I'd like to make a motion. Continuation of the suspending aspects of policy 006.1, whereas the novel coronavirus continues to create an environment where the Board of School Directors is unable to hold its meeting in a physical location. Now, therefore, be it resolved in accordance with Board Policy 003 that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the continuation of the temporary suspension of policy 006.1, attendance at meetings via electronic communications, originally approved on March 24th, 2020, until the next meeting of the board. It's been a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. This is a roll call vote. Mr. Irwin, would you please call the roll?
Cindy Bowman,
Yes.
Tina Hollenbach,
Yes.
Marty Sullivan,
Yes.
Irene Boyle,
Yes.
Paul Cirillo,
Yes.
Adam Kovitz,
Yes.
David Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Peritano,
Yes.
John Allen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
9-0. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Irwin.
Mr. Peritano, point of order.
Yes.
Since Ms. Burns is not in attendance, I think the board does have to appoint a temporary secretary.
You are correct. Thank you, Mr. Trente. I'd like to pass a motion to appoint a temporary board secretary for tonight's meeting. I would like to nominate Don Irwin. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. It's a roll call vote. Mr. Irwin, would you take the roll, please?
Ms. Bowman,
Yes.
Ms. Hollenbach,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Ms. Boyle.
Yes.
I'm sorry, repeat that? Ms. Boyle?
I heard yes.
Okay, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Cirillo?
Yes.
Mr. Kovich?
Yes.
Mr. Marrington?
Yes.
Mr. Peritano?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes 9-0. This evening, the board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss matters of employment, issues related to labor relation, and matters related to litigation. Our district's mission statement: the Neshaminy community builds futures by empowering each child to become a productive citizen and a lifelong learner. Mr. Irwin, are there any announcements this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Mr. Jones, superintendent's report, please.
Good evening again. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I think you can see my superintendent's report on the screen.
Yes.
And so typically that wouldn't be something that we would show at the meeting, but it is an opportunity to remind people that the superintendent's report is typically attached. It is always attached with docs, and it allows for people to see in more detail what is talked about each evening. So virtual meetings continue for us. They'll continue right through May at this point. So we're anticipating all of that. We do advertise those virtual meeting Zoom logins on neshaminy.org/meetings. It's the same spot you can go to for all meetings, and about a half hour, maybe an hour before each meeting, you'll see the actual Zoom login.
Oh, say, can you see?
There a link.
Joe?
I'm sorry, I was having some trouble there, but I think I'm back on. We have a link for our COVID-19 information for parents. A continuity of education plan was reviewed by our curriculum and instruction directors last time. That plan is now available in written form. You can find that link right here, but you'll also be able to find it if you go to the COVID link on our district's website. Really important to us is that our goal of our plan is that we do right by all of our students. So even with those who are struggling to keep up with our instructional expectations at this time, we're working on a case-by-case basis. So we encourage parents to reach out to the school, leave a message at the main school number, reach out by email to teacher or to principals directly, and we will work with you. We're having some good success in phase 3 instruction. We're actually now in our 3rd week. Certainly an indicator for us is the fact that there aren't many people who are expressing concerns. We have done both student surveys of how things are going as well as parent surveys. Our most recent survey was a parent survey last Friday. And our parents responded. About 25% of our parents who we sent that survey to responded. And that, for us, we thought was a good response and real positive in terms of the overall feel for the program. I'm hitting my mute all button here. Hold on for 1 second. I don't know if that mutes me. No. All right, district updates. Our calendar is something that the board has been working on and has indicated from the beginning that we're looking to have a calendar that makes sense for the community. So for us on the agenda this evening, you'll see that our calendar is revised ever so slightly with respect to the last end date. So that now, instead of us ending on a Monday, we back that up to a Friday, June 12th. So we'll go right through that week in June and end on June 12th with our virtual program. Our teachers do have some time that they'll be spending preparing after that for the next couple of weeks. And our graduation date is scheduled for the end of June with the goal that we're trying to do everything possible to get that graduation to be an in-person event for our class of 2020. We also have a couple of backup dates. If we can't, if societal restrictions still have it such that we feel that we cannot have the in-person graduation on June 27th, we have two backups. The first weekend in August, August 1st, and the first weekend in September, September 5th. So the calendar is part of the adoption. The graduation date of June 27th is on there, and those are the two backup dates for us as well. We appreciate all that the Pupil Services continues to do for our students. One thing is a new special education plan, and there's a link here that comes out of Pupil Services Department. Every 3 years, a plan is developed. You can see this plan takes us through 2023. Again, that link is available here, and the board will act on that after the public has had a chance to see that. So at our next May board meeting, we anticipate the board acting on our plan for final approval to send on to the Department of Ed. We have a variety of online resource supports, whether it's trouble getting onto the computer, technology service itself, support services through our counseling and social workers, and our meals continue to be in a grab-and-go fashion for both breakfast and lunches served at all 6 elementary school sites. Some really nice news from all of our schools. 4 of them are highlighted here, but schools are doing really nice work staying connected with the community, staying connected with their students in fun ways and in meaningful ways. And we appreciate all the work that's being done across the district in that fashion. Here, look here, tryouts for next year's cheer team are already part of the equation. So the cheer program is looking for those who are interested to inform them of that interest. Chris Stanley does a nice job and continues to on our website, spotlighting student entries in terms of some art challenges. And then most recently, though it's not part of the superintendent's report, he has been spotlighting members of our community who are doing good work to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And I thank Chris for all that good work. Drama, Neshaminy Drama, if you haven't caught it, every week, every Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we're in competition if we don't get out of here by 8 o'clock on Facebook Live. Our drama students, as well as some alumni, are participating in some programs that also have a local benefit in terms of raising money. And that's a nice effort as well. And then finally, I do want to highlight the fact that this is a different year for Teacher Appreciation. May 4th, that week, next week, starts Teacher Appreciation Week. And all of our teachers will remember the unique challenges and the heavy lift that was part of this process of turning from a brick and mortar program into an online system. And we've done it, what we believe, in a good, strong, systematic fashion with support across the board for all of our teachers. We're proud of the effort, but more importantly, we're proud of our teachers. Proud and thankful for all the hard work that they put in, both leading up to and as we continue in our instructional program in this new format. And so with great appreciation, I want to highlight the fact that this upcoming week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we have a lot to be thankful for here at Neshaminy. So thank you very much, Mr. Paratano.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I understand that Mrs. Burns is with us.
Thank goodness. Yes. I was just going to tell you that, Steve.
Are you here, Mrs. Burns?
She may be on mute.
You have to unmute your mic if you lower.
Yes, I'm here.
There you go.
Yep.
Great to have you. We have to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to terminate Mr. Irwin as temporary secretary. You like that word? Temporary secretary, and acknowledge that Mrs. Burns, our appointed board secretary, is now with us. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. This is a roll call vote. Please call the roll, Mrs. Burns.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman?
Yes.
Ms. Boyle? Ms. Boyle?
Where's the audio?
Ms. Boyle?
Bueller?
Mrs. Hallenbeck?
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Marrington?
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
and Mr. Cirillo.
Yes.
9 yes.
Motion passes 9-0. We're going to move on to our first public comment period. Public comment is for 3 minutes. You'll state your name, and since we're on this virtual platform and it's hard to hear people, please spell your last name so the secretary can record it. Give us your occupation, the area that you live in. Please be respectful in your comments and no personal attacks.
I'm trying to turn this down. I'm trying to turn it down. Give me a minute.
Mr. Stanley, are you going to control the calls for public comment?
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Stanley will recognize those that want to speak for public comment.
We've got some extra noise. I'm going to mute everybody. If somebody wants to have public comment, I'm going to suggest first, there's a raise hand feature that if you can find that raise hand feature, we can find you that way first, and then we'll allow you to mute your microphone if there's nobody that we can find that way.
Where do they find that raise hand feature at, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to ask me that.
You click on participants at the bottom, you find your name and you click on raise hand.
There you go.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. Mr. Stanley, you control the mic.
All right, I'm going to mute everybody now and wait for a hand.
I think Joe has to stop sharing his screen so that people can use that feature.
I don't think so, though, Cindy, but I will.
Yeah, because I can't click on it.
I'm going to continue. All right, I'm going to recognize Susan Loncoxie, I think it says.
Hi, I just wanted to know if anything will be done to honor the seniors that are going into the military. There's usually the military day.
Excuse me one second, miss. Could you,
Yes?
could you please state your name for the record, spell your last name, your area you live in, and your occupation, please?
I'm sorry, Susan Lonkoski, Loncos as in Sam, KY. I live in Langhorne. I'm a stay-at-home mom.
All right, thank you.
And I just want to know if you're going to do anything for the seniors that are going into the military, since there won't be the military day at the school.
Okay, thank you for that question. The administration will have an answer for you at the end of the meeting during comments.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to recognize Lee Sasser.
Oh. How do I unmute?
Yep. Lee Sasser, are you there?
Am I on there?
Yes, hi. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Linda, Linda, Elsasser, Elsasser. I live in Langhorne. I just can't tell you how thrilled I am that you're going to make an effort to have graduation. I think that's so incredibly important since the kids didn't get to say goodbye to each other. I think that's really important, so I appreciate it. September seems a little tough with the kids going to college, but still I think it's great. I'm just wondering, is there any effort to do anything for the prom, or is that just off the table now?
All right. Thank you for your question. If there's nothing else, again, the administration will answer that at the end of the meeting.
And finally, S. Kirsch, please. S. Kirsch, you have to unmute.
Unmute, there it goes. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Stacy Kirsch. I'm in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. And Linda just got a lot of things I want to say. Again, I want to thank you guys for, really trying to pull things together for these seniors who really need to be recognized. Same comment as Linda in saying, concern about September with a lot of the kids leaving already for college and for the military who won't be able to participate in a September ceremony. And I guess the question, two-part question. One is, what would the ceremony look like if we could do it sometime over the summer, and also prom. Is there any kind of effort to try and give the kids a prom? And going back to graduation, what about cap and gown? How would we get the kids a cap and gown?
All right, Mrs. Kirsch, thank you very much for your question. We'll get to you at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody else? I thought I saw one more. I think that may be it, Mr. Peritano.
Thank you. I'll give one last chance for anyone else that wants to raise their hand.
Oh, hold on, we got one more.
Okay.
Anon? Anon?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
you're on.
Hi, my name's Maddie Billet, Billet, and I'm a student. I'm a senior at the high school. And I just had a comment.
I think we've lost you.
Maddie, you're not coming through at all. If you want to try to reset your system, you do have a second comment period at the end of the meeting that you can participate in.
Well, we can try to come back. Let's go to Joanne McLinden.
My name is Joanne McLinden. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, MC.
Thank you.
LINDEN. My son is a senior, and we were just worried about yearbooks. Are they going to be distributed?
We're going to have to mute all mics again. All righty, Mrs. McLinden, I heard your question about the yearbook. We will have an answer for you at the end of the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Let's go with Donna Lorenz, please.
All right, well, there's your question. They can't hear us. They muted us.
Donna, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Donna Lorenz, Lorenz, Langhorne. I'm a parent of a 2020 senior. I appreciate you trying to have a traditional graduation. I did have two other ideas regarding the graduation. If it's crowding is an issue, it was maybe splitting the alphabet and doing some one day and the rest another day, and knocking the tickets down from 10 to just the parents and guardians, to make it doable so that they can actually walk to receive their diploma, not have a virtual graduation.
All right. Thank you very much for that suggestion.
You're welcome.
Rebecca, please, you're next.
Hi, Rebecca Graffius, Graffius. I'm a school teacher in Bristol Township School District. I am a parent of a senior, and I am thankful that there are the dates all the way up until September for possible graduation. Is there any way, so once we get to that September date, after that, is it then going to be decided if they're going to do something virtual, or if the decision to do something virtual, is that going to happen before that September date? Are we just going to hold off and wait it out until that September 5th date, I think it was? Because we don't want a virtual ceremony. So getting to that September date, if a decision has to be made, I'd like to, if there's a way to come together again and try and figure something out rather than going straight to virtual. I don't know what is going to happen once that September date comes and goes if we don't have a ceremony by then.
All right, thank you very much. We will definitely get you an answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more, Christian Grosso.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Christian Grosso, Grosso. I am a senior at the high school, and my question is, if we do have an in-person graduation, will we have a graduation practice?
All righty, Christian, we will definitely get you an answer on that by the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Anybody else right now?
All righty, we're going to move on from public comment. Next on the agenda is routine matters. I'd like to make a master motion for item 4.01 minutes, 4.02 treasurer's report, 4.03 check register and procurement card purchases, 4.04 budget transfers, 4.05 bids, 4.06 investments. There's been a motion made. Can I have a second?
Second.
I didn't see who that was. Who was that?
Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Sullivan with a second. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I have one question for Mr. Irwin. I noticed in our treasurer's report, you took a $20 million line item in from PASLAT. Could you please explain what's going on there?
Yes, Mr. Peritano, that was an investment that came due from our PSLAF portfolio. And I'm not sure if you can see on this document that is the investments. One of the things I tried to do this year, I began to do it actually in February, March. If you look on the left-hand side of that document, you can see the dates. You can see that
we have the treasurer's report up right now, not the investment report.
if you look at the investment report, I think it will tie back in.
There you go.
But you can see those dates on 3/18 as you get down the left-hand side. Well, what I was trying to do is begin on the second date of 3/18. You can see I have 3 different certificates of deposits that were purchased for different terms.
Yes.
And you can see where the instead of getting 0.1 on some of these investments, we begin to get 0.65, 0.7, 0.7, 0.6. And then we go back down to that 0.1 again until you get back up again to these $240,000 line items where you can see we have 0.75, 0.80. So what I'm trying to do there is build a ladder so that we not only potentially double, but, get 6 times the amount of earnings that we've been receiving just through the liquid fund and PSLAF. So what we're trying to do here is build a portfolio so that we get a better return on our investments.
Does these short-term investments tie into it was either last year or the year before, I forget now, the state revised some of the guidelines for district vehicles to invest in. I mean, not that we want to see ourselves in any risky environment, and I know that the cash market is very low right now and the rates are down, but how can we potentially start seeing a better return? Are there different vehicles we can investigate, or?
The only way to really do it and do it safely per the school code, although there are some different vehicles now permitted, but what we have to do is, have it fully vested, insured by the United States government. And that has to be, you have to work those through the FDIC typically, or straight from the U.S. Treasuries. And so therefore, what I'm trying to do is just build a little bit of ladder. So I'm taking some of these out and moving them a little bit further down on the sequence to vastly improve our return, trying to get it out of these 0.1s into something closer to 1%.
Something closer to 1%.
Well, yeah. Right now, it's really.
I know. It's just, to invest $20 million for 1% is just, I know what we have to do. I know what we have to do. It's
10 times. 1% is 10 times better than 0.1.
I know. I get it. I get it. Is there a thought? I know you've just started studying this. You haven't been here about a year, but is there a thought of taking, maybe 5 or 10% of this portfolio and looking at some of those other investment vehicles the state has made available?
Yes, and I have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday to begin that process with the RBC and PSLAF. PSLAF is an arm of RBC. And so what we're doing is I'm working with them to, again, just get this laddered out so that, liquidity is never a problem and you have these coming due continuously. But at the same time, we have, some depth to the ladder, if you will, to provide better returns.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? Hearing none and having a second, Mrs. Burns, would you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck?
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Marrington? Mr. Marrington?
I had to unmute myself. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Parentano?
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mrs. Burns. I'll move us on to section 5, administrative personnel. Appointment. I'm making a motion, whereas of July 1, 2020, there will be a vacancy in the office of superintendent of the Neshaminy School District. And whereas the Board of School Directors of the Neshaminy School District desires to elect Robert McGee III, PhD, to serve as district superintendent of the school district. And whereas Robert McGee III is agreeable to serve as the district superintendent in accordance with the terms of the district superintendent employee agreement prepared by the school district solicitor. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of School Directors elects Robert McGee III to be the superintendent of the school district for the term of 5 years, commencing on July 1, 2020, and ending on June 30th, 2025, in accordance with the Pennsylvania Public School Code. And be it further resolved that the Board of School Directors approves the district superintendent employment agreement at a yearly salary of $196,000 with no annual increase as prepared by the district solicitor and presented at this meeting, and authorizes the board president and secretary to execute said agreement on behalf of the school district. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Kovitz with the second. We need a roll call vote, Mrs. Burns.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman?
Yes.
Miss Boyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck?
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz?
Yes.
Mr. Marrington?
Yes.
Mr. Parentano?
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Congratulations to Dr. McGee. Dr. McGee, I would like you to take this opportunity to put yourself on video and unmute your mic and say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mr. Parentano. I'd like to thank the board for the confidence. It's an honor, and frankly, it's a bit humbling to be chosen to lead a district like Neshaminy School District. I look forward in working with students, parents, community, the board, and the staff to make sure that Neshaminy's legacy is secured for the future. So thank you, and we'll get back to business.
Thank you very much, Dr. McGee, and it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here for another 5 years leading this district. Alrighty, that will move us to section 5.02, retirements, resignations, end of assignments. I'd like to make a motion. Resolved that the Neshaminy School Board of Directors hereby approves the following appointments of administrative staff. Robert McGee, Director of Secondary Education, resignation, effective date of June 30th, 2020, with 2 years of service. May I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Bowman with a second. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Ms. Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
and Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes 9-0. Dr. McGee, congratulations on being terminated, so we can keep you.
Thank you.
So, sorry to do that to you. All right, that will move us to personnel certificated. Mr. Sullivan, please.
I'd like to make a master motion to approve item 6.01, retirements, resignations, end of assignments, 6.02, revised leaves of absence, 6.03, leaves of absence, 6.04, revised returns from leave.
Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Any comments, questions, or concerns? This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Ms. Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Sullivan, 6.05, please.
Memorandum of Understanding. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following Memorandum of Understanding in connection with the 2019-24 agreement between the Neshaminy Board of School Directors and the Neshaminy Federation of Teachers. And I'm going to read it right now.
Thank you.
Memorandum of Understanding number 3. Agreement between the Neshaminy Federation of Teachers and the Neshaminy School District. The purpose of this memorandum is to ratify what constitutes teaching a 6th period of instruction. A 6th teaching period / course at the secondary level is defined as an overload to a teacher's assignment to the extent that the teacher is assigned an additional 6th course to teach. Social studies, mathematics, English, science, foreign language, business, health, and physical education, technology, education, family living, music, and art secondary teachers shall not be assigned more than 25 instructional periods per week, receiving regular compensation, i.e. contractually guaranteed rate under the salary schedule. Secondary teachers of science lab courses shall not be assigned more than 28 instructional periods per week, receiving regular compensation. High school newspaper and yearbook advisors shall not be assigned more than 28 instructional periods per week, receiving regular compensation. It is understood for the purpose of additional compensation that a designated science lab, which provides an extension of a class period lesson in order to allow for hands-on laboratory experimentation, is not considered an additional 6 teaching period course or overload. The additional course, 6 teaching period course, entitling a teacher to additional compensation can be assigned for varying timeframes. Teachers assigned an additional course shall receive compensation as noted in Appendix C, F.4 to be paid in full or on a pro rata basis.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? I'm sorry. We have a motion. May we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Kovitz with a second. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns on 6.05? I would just like to add that I want to thank the NFT and their leadership for working with our administration to clarify this issue. I also want the public to know that this MOU fully meets the policy requirements and board policy laid out under contracts and bids. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Ms. Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Jones, could you put motion 7.01 on the screen, please? Mrs. Hollenbeck,
Yes.
could you please read motion 7.01?
Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following retirements, resignations of support staff. Do you want me to read all the names?
No, that's all right. There's
Or
been
am
a,
I supposed to? I'm not doing a motion for all this?
no, we're going to do 702. I'm sorry. Wait a second.
It's 8 that I'm doing all stuff.
8 that you're doing. My fault. My fault. Well, they're both short. You're not going to read the names, so we'll just read them individually.
All right, because John didn't write these.
Right. May I have a second? There's a motion on 701. Second?
Second.
Mr. Sullivan, comments, questions, and concerns? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Miss Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
9 yes, 0 no. Mrs. Hollenbeck, do a master motion for 702, 703. Joe, could you put 702 on the screen first?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 7.02 leave of absence and 7.03 revised returns from leave.
There's been a motion made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. Mrs. Burns, roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Miss Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Mrs. Byrne. Motion passes 9-0. Mrs. Hollenbeck, would you please read 8.01?
Whereas the audit for Neshaminy School District of the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2019 has been prepared by Maley LLP, and now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 in accordance with section 24-2408 of the school board.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollenbeck. We have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Who was that second?
Ms. Boyle.
Boyle.
Boyle. Thank you, Mrs. Boyle, for the second. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Not going to read the audit?
Mrs. Hollenbeck, would you like to read the audit?
No.
Hearing none.
I read it cover to cover. It was fine.
Put you to sleep last night, huh? Hearing none. Mrs. Burns, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Miss Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Mrs. Byrne. Motion passes 9-0. Mrs. Hollenbeck, could you please read 8.02?
Am I reading the attachment?
No, I'll have the administration comment during comments.
Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached resolution to refinance existing general obligation bonds, Series B of 2015.
Thank you. I have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Could we elaborate on that, why we've done that?
Yes. Mr. Irwin, could you please add some commentary to this motion?
Yes. You know, just as we discussed the extremely low rates and they punish us as when we have savings, it also provides us an opportunity on the money that we have borrowed from bondholders. And while the traditional routes of advance refunding are no longer available to school districts, we can issue taxable bonds, and which is a non-traditional route, meaning that the bondholder would then pay taxes on the proceeds from refinance bonds. In doing so, we would save approximately potentially between $4.5 and $5.5 million, depending on the current market rates, when we refinance these 2015 bonds. So what we're looking to do is take budgetary savings in all the future years and level out our budgetary amounts for the next 20 years related to this bond. What it does do is it provides us a savings beginning in 2027 of approximately $600,000 a year. Although while there'd be some savings before that, that's the majority of the savings looking forward, that we would avoid significant increases in our bond payments in future years.
But the net result is over the term, it's going to save close to $5 million.
Yes. I'd be disappointed if it doesn't save at least $5 million.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just want to point out and make clear that, you know, the tax is not on the school district. The burden's on the buyer of the bond.
Yes.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Any other members? Hearing none. Mrs. Burns, this is a roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Miss Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Moving on to section 8. Mrs. Boyle, could you please read, section 9. Mrs. Boyle, could you please read number 9.01?
Okay. Whereas inclement weather forced the closing of all schools on December 2nd, 2019, and whereas Neshaminy High School was closed on March 10th, 2020, to conduct disinfecting activities due to a potential exposure to the virus COVID-19, and whereas all Neshaminy schools were closed on March 13th, 2020, due to the staffing shortages, and whereas Neshaminy School District has been closed and will remain closed since March 15th, 2020, due to the virus COVID-19, and continues providing for the continuation of education remotely for all K-12 students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached school calendar, which adjusts for the above events and modifies the last day for students to be June 12th, 2020, and shifts the last day for certified staff to be June 25th, 2020, with June 26th, 2020 being the last day for high school certified staff. Be it further resolved that Saturday, June 27th, 2020 at 11 a.m. is designated as the date for the Neshaminy High School graduation.
Thank you, Mrs. Boyle. There's been a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kovitz. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. Mrs. Burns, this is a roll call vote.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman,
Yes.
Miss Boyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallenbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Kovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Marrington,
Yes.
Mr. Parentano,
Yes.
Mr. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mrs. Burns. This moves us on to other board business. Are there any board members that have any other business in front of the board? Hearing none, this is going to move us to our second public comment period. The same rules apply. You have 3 minutes. Mr. Stanley will recognize you by you raising your hand, clicking on the participant button at the bottom of the screen. Please state your name. Please spell your last name. State your occupation, area you live in, and please be respectful in your comments and no personal attacks. Mr. Stanley, please control the mic.
Okay, we'll start with, I apologize, I forget first name, Sasser, please. Ella Sasser.
Hi. Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi. My name is Linda Elsasser, and I live in Langhorne. I'm sorry, I'm asking another question. I'm just
It's okay.
wondering.
Could you spell your last name again?
Oh, sorry. Elsasser. I forgot to ask about locker clean out, if the kids are cleaning out the lockers. And I was also wondering why the teachers have to make up the days, because I bet they put in a ton of time getting ready for distance learning. So I'm wondering why the teachers would have to put in extra time. And I was just also hoping that you could briefly explain the grading policy for the high school kids to know if it's a participation grade, or I know it's pass fail, but I'm just wondering what will go into that, if you could explain that a little bit.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Maddie, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Maddie from the first time. My last name is Billet, Billet. And I'm from Langhorne, and I'm a senior at Neshaminy. I was just wondering if the school board had any thoughts on making a announcement to the entire district encouraging social distancing, especially within the district, if we're trying to have an in-person graduation, especially for the high schoolers. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie.
Okay, anybody else? We don't see any, Mr. Parapano?
Okay, hearing none, we're going to close public comment.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Does someone want to
Yeah,
get
one more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Am I unmuted? Yeah.
So Kirsch, are you there?
Yes. Stacy Kirsch, Langhorne. A couple questions. First, again, just wondering why the teachers have to go so much longer after the students are out of school, and knowing how much time that they have to put in to prepare for distance learning, and how much time they put in after the school day, knowing that the students are emailing them and getting responses throughout the evening time, questions on work. The second question is on when students are going to be permitted to go into school, how that's going to work so they can clean out their lockers and get materials that they have left in their lockers, how that piece is going to work. And finally, when is the seniors' last day of school? Because I know traditionally it has been before the rest of the high school. So just wondering when that last day of school is going to be.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirsch. Anyone else, Mr. Stanley?
Anybody else? Last call. I am not seeing any, Mr. Paratano.
All right, we're going to move on then. The board comment. At this time, I'm going to ask our administrators to chime in and provide some answers for the multitude of questions we had regarding graduation. And
I have it.
you have that, Mr. Jones?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me run through what I have in front of me. If I forget anything, somebody can help remind me. But trying to go in order from how they were asked back at the first open public portion of the meeting. Military program, a really important program for Neshaminy High School. We do a very nice program in the middle of the school during the course of the school day where students get to observe the recognition of the young men and women who are moving from the high school directly into military service. There is going to be something done to recognize those students who are coming out of the class of 2020. It's not yet determined. It's probably going to be something that's going to be electronically done via video that Mr. Stanley will do a nice job publicizing. But right now we have a variety of end of year programs that are getting that type of attention. The military program is definitely one of them. With respect to September being a tough date, we know that, but we are hopeful that the Labor Day weekend will provide a window for people to be able to hang around or get back for September if that's the worst case. I will say at this time, to answer a couple of persons' questions, that the effort on this board and certainly conveyed to this administration is to do everything possible to have an in-person program for our kids. And so we continue to look at those options. There was one question, well, what if September doesn't work? There's not an automatic default back to something that would be virtual. We will continue to have dialogue as we watch the weeks unfold and watch what happens with respect to the social expectations around the summer weeks. And certainly there will be opportunity for the board and the administration to keep this as a focal point for us. No plans for prom, unfortunately. It's a tough event to as you can imagine, for us to somehow manage through a social distancing expectation. And so unfortunately, prom is not on a reschedule, but rather a cancellation at this juncture. And at this time, that's how that was announced. We don't know exactly what graduation would look like. We do expect that there'll probably be cause for us to do some things differently. You heard one parent give us some suggestions. Things like that are being talked about. But again, it'll depend upon the time of the program and the expectations of the controlling governmental bodies at that time in terms of what we need to do in order to comply with the expectations. Caps and gowns will be part of the program. The high school administration will be making that work. Yearbooks are going to be part of our program. The high school will arrange for that opportunity for yearbook distribution, however best we can accomplish that. Obviously, there's been some past practices that will not be able to continue right through the end of the year. One of the questions was, when does the senior year end? Because some of that ending involved yearbook distribution and time for kids to share yearbooks. The high school administration is going to work collaboratively with those involved to figure out how the end of the year will work for the seniors. It probably won't look exactly the same as the underclassmen, and we'll see how much of these things we can incorporate, if any. But again, we're trying to be as respectful as the traditions, but at the same time respectful of the difficult situation we are in as a society in general. I answered that question in person. One young man asked, Mr. Grasso asked if we will practice for graduation. I am 100% confident the administration would love for you to practice before graduation to ensure that it looks good for everybody involved. My guess would be, if that's possible, that would be something we would try to do. But at the same time, we will work to make this happen, even if graduation practice isn't a possibility. But the practice is not something that has been ruled out. Those kinds of details will still all be part of the conversation that will take us right up until the decision point. At the back end here, locker clean out. Unfortunately, being driven by the advanced placement tests, we really needed to this week facilitate a way for kids who were taking that open book test to be able to have access to their AP textbooks. And so that's the first group, with a few hundred students, 300 plus students, 400 students. So those students are being contacted. If they need items out of their locker, we are getting them for them. And that clean out process is our first trial run. after we take care of AP students, and they'll come pick up bagged items from their locker, named and number, locker number on them, and a process that is still to be conveyed to that group. That we will then use that experience to then move on to our senior class. After those two experiences, we'll develop a plan for the rest of the system. Again, this is not a very easy process, but that right now, we have school employees who will be able to work and facilitate the securing of the items from the lockers. We recognize there's no perfect process, but that's the process that we're going to be following for these first two efforts. We do appreciate the concern for our teachers' days. Our teachers do have a contractual number of days. We did and continue to try to recognize all the good work that they've done. We have some planned programming at the end of the year, but our teachers will have some professional opportunity to just, our main focus at the end of the year is going to be giving time for teams of teachers to get back together to do preparation work in case, worst case scenario, September starts back online again. And so it's actually going to be valuable time and opportunity for us to do that before we close up. And
Grading.
Your last, what did I not get?
Grading.
Oh yes, grading of the high school students. That was somewhat covered, I guess, during our continuity of education plan. It is included in our continuity of education plan, so you can get more detail by clicking on that link. But our senior high school students are in a pass or incomplete fashion. Our expectation, and we have a significant, a large percentage, nearly all of our kids, probably as many as come on a regular basis to school in the 90 percentile participating in the coursework. We're hopeful that most will secure the pass. The pass is only going to be something that's going to help them. The average of their first 3 marking period grades is what's going to be used to generate a grade. We're actually here at Neshaminy going to be giving students choice between taking the numerical average or taking a pass for the course overall. Some of our students, even though an 87 might sound really good to you, they may have want to have that chance in that 4th marking period to drive that up to an A. And if they're more comfortable showing a pass on their report card than the 87, they'll have that opportunity right to the end. But the 3 marking period grades that they have already accumulated, plus needing to secure that pass in that 4th marking period will allow for us to come up with a final grade for them in that course. I think that's everything.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We're going to start with board comment. We're going to do it the way we've been doing it last couple of meetings. We're going to start off alphabetically. So Mrs. Bowman, do you have any comments you would like to make this evening?
Yes. First of all, I wanted to congratulate Dr. McGee on his appointment as superintendent. I look forward to working with you. Secondly, I just wanted to comment on the parent attendance and taxpayer attendance during this meeting was outstanding. We had at one point over 120 people. And like I said, and people that know me, I always tell you, parents are the best advocates for their children. And I encourage everybody to continue to come to these board meetings. It's nice to see the participation. And thank you so much. Also, a shout out to all of our healthcare workers and emergency responders that are working during this COVID crisis. Thank you for your dedication, and I hope everybody stays safe.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. Mrs. Boyle, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate Dr. McGee on his appointment as the superintendent, and I certainly look forward to working with him. And I also like to thank all the first responders and all the dedicated workers that have helped, keep things going. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Boyle. Mrs. Hollenbach.
She had to leave, Steve. She had a personal thing to attend to. Okay.
Not a problem. Mr. Kovitz.
Yes, very excited to have Dr. McGee on board as our new superintendent. So welcome. Excited to work with you. My sons have nothing but fond memories of working with you as well. Also in regard to that, I wanted to thank all the folks that sent me and the rest of the board emails in regard to graduation. I too have a senior who's graduating this year, Lord willing, and you know, and I'm also an educator as well. So there's nothing that we want more than to have an in-person graduation if possible. We are limited though by the laws of the county, by the state, you know, and federally, of course. So we're going to do everything we can to ensure that whatever we do, if it can be done, is going to be safe, because at the end of the day, we're all here for the kids. Administration's been working hard. I know the teachers been working hard. And of course, the board members have been working hard to keep things running despite being in completely uncharted territory. So we appreciate your patience as we're stumbling and struggling to deliver the best possible outcome for everyone involved.
Thank you, Mr. Kovitz. Mr. Marrington.
Yeah, I also, of course, would like to congratulate Dr. McGee. I can't say this for sure, but he may be the first of many superintendents we've had at Neshaminy who's been a lifer in the school district. He knows it inside out. He was a student at Neshaminy, a graduate. He was a math teacher at Neshaminy, worked his way right up the ladder. And I think that's going to bode well for all of us. And I'd just like to mention something that stuck with me that was meant, you know, Dr. McGee mentioned in his interview. His guiding principle for all Neshaminy employees is that everyone feel appreciated, fairly compensated, and not overwhelmed. And I hope he's able to keep that with this COVID thing if it's still going on next year. But I think those are great guiding principles. So welcome, Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Marrington. That will bring us to Mr. Cirillo.
I too, again, want to congratulate Dr. McGee on becoming the superintendent. I too echo the sentiments of Mr. Marrington. I like to see the fact that he's homegrown talent, so to speak. I like the fact that he knows the heritage and tradition of Neshaminy School District. And I look forward to working with him. I think he's going to do extraordinarily well.
Thank you, Mr. Cirillo. That will bring us to Mr. Sullivan.
I can unmute myself.
Yes.
I think for the next meeting we should reverse the alphabet so I can go first.
All right, we can do that. We can do that.
Like everyone else has said, I wish to congratulate Dr. McGee. It's a great hire for Neshaminy. Like everyone has said, he's homegrown from the rank and file, knows the district, and looking forward to working with him. He's going to be a great addition to the district, especially coming through this year that we're coming through right now. So, right man for the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Allen, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Peritano. I have a couple comments here. And number one, you know, when Mr. Jones informed us that he was going to be stepping down, his desire to return to teaching, you know, I approached that with a little bit of fear because of our experiences going out and, you know, with the search and how hard it is to find the superintendent who fits our community. And I just want to thank Dr. McGee and welcome him to the job, you know, that he didn't have to step up to. And I just want to, you know, give him a big thumbs up for that. Greatly appreciated. I'm very much looking forward to working with you in the capacity of superintendent. I'm excited to see where we go with some of the plans we've discussed already. So again, congratulations, Dr. McGee, Rob. And then I'd also like to mention our first responders that our IT group and Chris Stanley have been putting up on social media and making sure they were, you know, our alumni and some of our current students who have been stepping up and that's just fantastic to see our kids working and excelling in the community, especially during these times. And that brings me to I, you know, Don Irwin, Mr. Irwin often doesn't get praised in our meetings for the work he's done for us. I just want to acknowledge how hard he's gone after looking after the financial interest of our district with some of these bond issues that we talked about at this meeting. Just want to thank you, Mr. Irwin. Greatly appreciated. And lastly, all the emails I got regarding graduation. I hope we answered your concerns, and I hope you understand that a in-person in the stadium, and again, as others have pointed out, I've often been using the word traditional. That's not quite straight. We shouldn't be using that word because that obviously isn't what we're going to be looking at. But I understand the idea of getting into the stadium, being able to walk, or however it comes out, as opposed to virtual, that we are trying very hard to have that happen. As you see, we picked a handful of dates well into the beginning of September even to pull that off. So again, anyone that I wasn't able to get back to in my mail, I hope we answered your question. And that's it. And I hope everybody does stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I just want to finish up on a few things. First, I want to thank the public that participated here tonight. I think we had a record sign on. It was 119 people tuned in today's meeting. I wish we could have that all the time, just not when there's things like superintendent and graduation issues on there. But we do appreciate the public and your questions. We appreciate those that showed concern for our teachers, and by no means do we not have concerns for our teachers and our other staff as well. But this is an unprecedented time, and everybody is being asked to do more. Everybody is being asked to pull the extra mile. And there's going to be times in your professional career where, things are going to be a little bit more easier. And there's going to be times in your professional career where, you're going to have to put in the extra 5, 10, 30%, whatever it takes to get the job done. And our administrators, our teachers, our staff have stood up and taken that responsibility on. And I think they're doing a great job, and they'll continue to do a great job, even, when things go back to what we'll term as normal. But, we don't know what the new normal is going to be. To Dr. McGee, John made some comments regarding, Mr. Jones, and we're going to have time later in the year to recognize Mr. Jones for all his accomplishments here in Neshaminy. But Dr. McGee, I can't say enough about how you've stepped up, what you have done for Neshaminy through your professional career. It is something to be said for someone that's born here, raised here, gone to school here, worked here, and now come to be the leader of the place. There's a lot to be said for that. I also want to thank you for your recognition in your professional contract of respecting the needs of the community and showing what it really it means to be part of something, and understanding that while it appears that people are just in it for the dollars, there's more to it than just the dollars. And the way you came to a mutual agreement with this board is unprecedented, I think, in the history of not only this district, but probably of all Bucks County when it comes to obtaining a superintendent. So I can't thank you enough for that. I want to speak directly to our 2020 senior class. We promise you, we are going to move heaven and earth to have you get the recognition that you deserved and you earned. Behind the scenes, your administrators, your teachers, our support staff, and this board is working as hard as we can to make sure you get that day. As others have explained, it's going to depend upon what the state does, what the county does, but hopefully we're going to get to a point where you can have the type of graduation that Mr. Allen spoke about. This is not only important for you to receive this recognition, but it's important to this community to get back to a sense of normalcy and to realize that we can come together and we can celebrate something. And this board is determined to see that happen. So I want to thank everyone involved. A lot of these issues are going to continue to develop, how graduation occurs, what it's going to look like, what's going to be, whether you're going to practice, you know, all that stuff. The administration still needs a lot of time to work that out. But what's important for everybody to realize is the commitment is there to have this occur and to give you students the recognition you deserve. So we wish you well. Everyone stay safe. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.